Okay, let's go ahead and start the process. Again, thank you for joining us. Today's webinar this afternoon is to talk about the online North Carolina training retailer, the North Carolina Tobacco Retailer Training. It's really designed to serve the needs of merchants in our state to provide better information and training and a level of testing to ensure compliance with standards associated with not selling to minors. We were hoping to build an integrated system that provided training and testing as well as a printed certificate to the merchant all at the same time with a database running in the background so we could identify who has completed the training and via what methods and so forth. And we're pretty happy with our first initial version 1.0 of this effort. And we're really dependent upon prevention professionals in the field to help spread the word through your daily interactions with merchants in your communities about this training opportunity. This does not supplant any other activity out there in terms of training and education. It's just another supplemental resource that we can direct individuals to. We're going to share the video and share a screen. Hopefully everybody will be able to see my screen. And we'll be able to get started, I do believe. Israel, would you like to chime in and tell us a little bit of the history behind this and what your goals were in terms of kind of spearheading how this came to be and online interest and so forth?
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me here today. This was a project that took a lot of time to get off the ground, but with 14 General Statute 14-313 stating that employees shall train people who sell tobacco products, we understand that it's very difficult, especially on the ALE side of retailers allowing their employees to leave the location where they're at because there may only be one or two employees that work there. So we're trying to figure out not only in-person training, but online training, which would be interactive. We really wanted this to be interactive where people would need to answer questions. Jamie and his group did a phenomenal job, and we're trying to get this pushed out to as many people as we can. We sat down with the Attorney General's office the other day, and the North Carolina Retail Merchants Association was there, and we're pushing this out there to them as well to see if we can get as many people involved in it as we can. So thank you for everybody for joining, and please provide as much feedback as you
Yeah.
can.
Thanks, Israel. And just feel free to jump in as we go through the process today, too. I have a collection of slides to show everybody before we jump into the system. We'll do a little bit of show and tell demonstration within the system itself and share with you some of the initial promotional material that we have on hand that we can send to providers and distribute to help promote this training in the community. I do apologize for not being able to share my entire screen. I'm having a technical issue that is a GoToWebinar issue, sadly, about using a MacBook. So we'll be scrolling through some slides quickly. Just a natural disclaimer of sorts. The funding for this project was made possible by the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services and the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation Alcohol Law Enforcement Division. The views expressed in the online training or written publications do not necessarily reflect the official policies of the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services or the North Carolina Bureau of Investigation Alcohol Law Enforcement Division, nor does mention of trade names, commercial practices, or organizations imply endorsement by our respective funding sources. So, since the legalese is behind us, let's start digging into our processes. And we have to ask the question, what is this? what is a online training program, for who, and for what, and what's the goal. We basically designed a self-contained training process that can be accessed via a regular computer, a tablet, a cell phone, irregardless of location. All you need is a internet connection. It requires no personal intervention on our behalf as in the background, except daily maintenance and troubleshooting with our customers or merchants who interact with the system. Again, this is version 1.0. We'll be making dramatic improvements to the system in coming months, especially during the spring. Our first primary goal was to settle on the content and our structure and aligning the material to best practice standards, to legal standards, and finding a good flow for how we present the material. What we really wanted the participant to leave the training with was an understanding of the health consequences and economic consequences of tobacco use in North Carolina, an understanding of the legal responsibilities and the liabilities for selling tobacco products to anyone who is under the age of 18, an understanding of the techniques to verify what customers purchasing tobacco, verify that customers purchasing tobacco are of legal age. So we want to, again, reduce the percentages, the odds of someone being sold tobacco products under the age of 18, and increase the scale level, increase the capacity level of those merchants to help implement the law as best they can. And last but not least, to give them some tools and techniques to assist them or the owner of the store from incurring costly fines and receiving other sanctions for violations of the sale of tobacco products. Those are really, really wordy terminologies and terms, but we want to provide, again, basic education and training opportunities to those merchants so they can understand the health consequences, the legal consequences, and how to build skills to reduce the odds of selling to minors. We have two access points for the training. The point of access, the point of referral, the primary one is the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation Alcohol Law Enforcement website. If you notice on the website, there's a tobacco link that sends us to a specific web page, Israel's section. Notice the page changed from alcohol law enforcement. After clicking on, we have alcohol law enforcement, that's the title. Click on tobacco. The screen looks somewhat similar, but the title changes. Now we happen to be on the tobacco page, and to access the online tobacco retailer training, we just have to click on this link, and it will take you directly to the training. This is the method that we're encouraging the public to access the training, especially merchants. And on our printed materials, we will be sharing with you at the end of the webinar. This is also the desired link that's public facing. We do have a access link for providers that we hope to make it easier for prevention providers to access on the new TTA website. If you go to nctraining.info or ncpreventiontta.org, we have a merchant training circle. And that also takes you to the training as well. But we do want to encourage merchants through our published materials to go through the ALE website, if at all possible. What will we be covering? What does the training cover? We provide a short description about what the training is all about, some details about how to get started. We have specific course objectives or training objectives that I shared with you a few moments ago. Then we start digging into the real content. Why do we focus on tobacco? Why is tobacco a pressing issue? What are some of those health consequences of tobacco? So those details fit into the why are we focusing on tobacco. Then we move on to what does the Tobacco Control Act do, and provide some detail and interpretation about the various legal standards that influence tobacco sales on the federal level and inside the state. We take a look at building some skills related to understanding and being able to scan tobacco IDs in terms of identifying where the birth date is and what the different orientations mean, horizontal orientations versus vertical orientations, and identifying some safety issues and common items that could be indicators of attempts to manipulate the ID. Refusal is our next to last training session of sorts. And this is a section that we're currently building out and trying to improve this fall in terms of helping merchants, owners, employees understand how to politely refuse a sale that doesn't aggravate the circumstance. And last but not least, we move on to a training quiz of sorts that is requires a registration process and a certain performance level. And if the performance level is achieved, a certificate is automatically generated for the user. And we'll share some of the details behind that on following slides. Again, we looked at these training objectives a few minutes ago, talking about the health consequences, economic consequences, legal responsibilities, verification techniques, and some tools that can maybe, we hope, make the job of a store employee a little bit manageable. But there's also a common theme throughout the training in terms of instructional design. Commonly with online content, users tend to scroll through it really, really fast. And as opposed to attempting to process and understand the information, many times through human nature, we attempt to just get it done. And this is always a challenge with online learning, and it's a challenge that will probably never be overcome. But we have built in what I call stop signs throughout the training. There's no real stop signs in the training, but these continue buttons are designed to slow the person down, to make them look at the material in a certain sequence, and the user cannot proceed until clicking continue. Now, there's nothing that says the user cannot scroll quickly to every continue button, then hit continue, then scroll quickly again, then continue, and so forth. Within the current software that we use to build this system, we can only slow individuals down to a certain point. With our redesign, we believe we can slow them down a little bit more to encourage folks to read the material a tad bit better and view the videos and participate in the activities. A few technology requirements that we can be conscious of. Basically, any computer, we believe this will function well on, even your older machines. It's built on top of HTML5. There's nothing special about the interface. It should work with even Windows 95 machines if there's a browser that can hold it up. It works with Chrome, Safari, Firefox, Edge, Explorer. Also works with a variety of tablets and smartphones. Honestly, just my personal preference is I believe the training looks better on a phone than it does on an actual PC. That's just more of a preference on my part. And it was built first and foremost to be mobile responsive. Because we do realize many employees may not have computers. Many of us may not have a computer at home, but we certainly have mobile devices. All the screens and videos and activities, even the quiz, quizzes automatically size to meet the size of your phone or to meet the size of the tablet. Apologies for all these double-click edits. I was thinking that I could fill my screen and those edit boxes would be hidden. We do have modules. The training is built based on a module concept with sample quizzes within each module. And you cannot move forward from one module to the next unless you complete the prior module. There are sample quizzes. We will show you a few examples of those samples from the training. And all those quiz questions actually exist within the certification questions. So we're hoping to train individuals through the sample questions about the most important features of the training and content. So by the time they reach the official certification quiz, they will have seen content not only in writing, not only in terms of video, but also in terms of a sample quiz. Speaking of the sample quiz or certification test, this is the test that we require users to complete to actually receive the certificate of completion. And users must complete at least 80% successfully of their questions, 8 out of 10 who successfully complete. And when we get to the quiz part, test part, I'll share with you some statistics of our current use and success rates. And of course, if you have a technical issue, the user can submit a help desk ticket or email the TTA Center, and we will provide individual assistance to the user via phone, email, text chat, whatever it may be to help the user, wherever they may be within the state to be successful. We do not want a technical issue to keep a store or to keep an employee who wants to learn about this topic and participate in the training to keep them from being successful. So we provide a personal touch, even though the system may be operating in the background. Last but not least, we have navigation buttons built in throughout the training. Of course, the primary navigation button are the blue continue buttons indicated and displayed a few minutes ago. Plus, we have graphics and photos built into the system that can all be enlarged in case that we have users who have visual impairments. We can click on a particular graphic and make that much bigger than how it's presented on the screen. We have a collection of webinars, well, not webinars, but videos. I have webinars in my brain today. We have a collection of videos. I believe there's 12 videos built within the system itself that the individual can watch. All videos are closed captioned in case we serve individuals who may be deaf or hard of hearing. And we will continue to build videos throughout the training system. What you will begin to see the next 12 months or so is a reduction of text and an increase of interactive video that requires user participation. We realize right now we're pretty dense, text heavy in terms of our text density, and we do want to reduce the level of text because, especially for non-readers or English as second language readers, heavy text training material doesn't convey meaning very well. We built the system on an average 8th grade reading level. We realize it's probably still too high. Our goal is to reduce that down to 6th grade at the maximum. That is, given some of the legal terminology and information that we do have to present, that's been somewhat of a challenge. So it encourages us and it emphasizes to us the importance of transitioning to more of an interactive video approach. So these videos serve as introductions. The videos you will see in the training serve as introductions to each section. They really provide a preview of the text material that follows. Here is a sample quiz. Tobacco use remains the #1 preventable cause of death and disease in North Carolina and the United States. and you choose true or false. If you choose the incorrect answer, the system will ask you it'll provide a hint, then ask you to complete the question again. All of our sample quiz questions operate on this paradigm where sometimes the individual learns more by answering the question incorrectly the first time. Then we can review the question the second time. Another example of design approaches within the training are using static graphics to emphasize certain points. This particular graphic, if you note on the top of the box, it says item 1, then you see these 1, 2, 3, 4. This particular graphic actually requires user participation to scroll through. So this tells us that there's 3 other graphics after this one, presenting particular statistical information regarding the topic at hand. Another example of attempts to bring some level of interactivity to the program is these are called tabs. We ask the user to click on tabs to review and to think about certain information. We know through training design, the more interactive we can force the user to be with the content that they are attempting to learn, to process, to understand, the more successful we will be. We know that heavy, long processes are not very effective. Generally speaking, we're beginning to see enough data where it takes about 20 minutes, to look at the text by itself within the material. Now, that being said, we have 12 videos built into the training material. The average length of those videos are about 90 seconds. If you do the math, it gets us up to about 14 minutes of video. So 14 minutes plus about 20 minutes of text. Most individuals are tending to be involved for about 35 minutes in the training process. That doesn't include the testing process. We do have outliers, of course, but one of our goals and expectations was to create an experience that did not exceed 60 minutes. And I think for again, a first version, we're pretty close. This is another example of user required participation, flip cards. This particular section talks about NC Journal Statute 14313, and we bring forth common definitions that exist, or terminology that exists within the statute. The individual has to interact with the card, flip it to read the definition, and you can constantly flip back and forth. This is another example of an interactive activity. The user is asked to tap on the numbers. And tapping upon the number, you either receive a definition for the topic or the logic, or a skill building exercise. This particular screen talks about characteristics when we look at a photo ID, characteristics of someone's facial features that tend not to change over time very much, such as eyelids or earlobes or the chin. Over the process of aging, many of our personal characteristics do change, but many do not. So we want to force the user to start thinking about, when we're looking at photo IDs, what types of those facial characteristics do change and do not change, given the active time period for that particular photo ID. Here's another example of that. So when we have a sample identification card that we ask users to interact with, and either with their mouse or with their finger using a tablet or a smartphone, click on the numbers. And when clicking on the numbers, a pop-up box appears that indicates, this is what this particular section, this particular graphic means. A few other slides I want to share with you, then we will take a break for questions, then talk through the training system for just a few minutes, and try to do some Q&A at the very, very end as well. We do have a quizzing section. A little background behind the quiz is during the winter, we started with a test bank. I think it was 140 questions was the original test bank. We originally narrowed that down to about 120. We have narrowed those test questions down to, upon launch, it was 106, I believe. Since we launched the training, we have narrowed that listing down to around 70. We've been very methodical with our test design and topics. We want our test questions to map back to the most important concepts presented in the training. Those concepts of understanding why we do not sell to minors, the health effects, and potential consequences. Through current participation in the quizzes, we've been able to identify some questions that we saw some random answering for, meaning it made us question the reliability or consider the reliability of the question being asked. But that particular question could be maybe interpreted in multiple ways, and we want to present users with very clear questions that only have answers based on the content we have presented. In any event, I looked this morning, and we have had 29 individuals complete our testing process. Out of those 29, 25 have successfully achieved a passing score. So 25 out of 29 have successfully achieved a passing score. That leaves us 4 individuals. Out of those 4, 3 individuals successfully passed by their third time. And 1 individual has not taken the quiz or the testing process more than 1 time. So we've lost that 1 person. You might ask, well, what happens when someone fails or doesn't create or achieve 80% on their test rate? Amanda specifically, our PTA staff, Amanda reaches out to them personally via email first and asks if they need any assistance. If they have technical issues, were they able to access all the training material? Basically, we want to provide a personalized, encouraging message to the user, not to give up, to go through the material again and attempt the quiz again. Individuals can attempt 3 times to achieve their 80% mark. After the 3rd time, the system locks the user out, and we want to reach out to the user again and have another conversation and try to identify, where the issue is. Maybe it's a reading issue, maybe it's a technology issue, maybe it's a content or cognitive transmission issue in terms of understanding. So we don't want folks to keep trying over and over and over and getting discouraged and not be successful. A few basics about our quizzing process. All users need an email address to create their account. There's really no way around this currently. The email address is used for verification and to reset user accounts and so forth. It's really the only common identifier that our systems can depend on to effectively filter and sort information. Users, we ask individuals for their name, their phone numbers, of course, their email address, and we also ask for the name and address of the store and for the job title of the individual. We really want to know the stores that are participating in the training program, and their associated employees. For example, we have one small chain within North Carolina that are heavy users of the system at large already. More than likely, out of the 29 individuals who have participated, I would be willing to say 30% of those are from the same store chain. And we're really glad that particular store, series of stores, have found the training beneficial. It's also recommended that employees start and complete the quiz in the same setting. The testing system will remember the user's account and progress, but the way that we have one challenge with the training system right now, in terms of ensuring security and ensuring that users can't take the quiz without going through the material. In the next version, we can solve this problem. But in the current version, the user has to go through the content material to get to the link to take the quiz. So we encourage folks to go through the content material and to then take the quiz as soon as they can. If they try to resume the quiz and they don't keep their email from the system, the only way to find the quiz again is to go through the training again. But the training will remember where you stopped and started if you return to the training, based on cookies it delivers to your Safari browser or your browser. The reward to the rise is folks need to start and complete their quiz in the same setting is the goal. And since there's only 10 questions, that hasn't been an issue. We have not seen individuals not complete quizzes based on the data. The average time length to complete a quiz is about 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So it is not we haven't seen a hardship yet in terms of the data, in terms of asking individuals to start the quiz and finish the quiz in the same setting. It's an issue that we're monitoring just when we have a bigger sample process. This is a screenshot of creating an account. We create login and ask for an email address, ask you to create a password. You type a password. There's a way to reset the password. The user can reset the password by themselves for the testing process, or we can, on our end, we can reset the process, reset the password as well. We ask individuals to complete this information fully. Of course, their first name, their last name, their email address, their phone number, what's their job title, the name of their retail location, and the address. We've actually changed the question for the address since this screenshot was made to specifically say street address, city, state, and zip code. Some individuals were leaving that out and only indicating the street address itself and not the city or the state. My apologies, this slide is a tad bit blurry, but we do have a 10-question limit. There's no time limit on the quiz. You can take as long as you want to. You can save the quiz and finish it at a later date. We present 5 questions per page for the quiz. So there's only 2 pages that the user has to navigate through. You can go back and change your answers. If you submit your quiz with blanks, you can submit a quiz without submitting an answer. But after you submit your quiz, you can't go back. And you have to have a pass rate of 80%. This is an example, a screenshot of the testing screens. You'll see, for example, the majority of those are true false, or they're multiple choice. Meaning multiple choice, only one answer multiple choice, not multiple answer. But there's no intent to create unclear questions. There's no attempt to create misleading questions or trick questions. All the questions came directly out of the training content and usually worded in exactly the same way. This is the screen. For example, I created my account, went through the 10 questions. I caught 9 out of the 10 right. The system will tell me how many points I accumulated, what percentage, how long it took me to complete the quiz, my date and time, start, stop, and provide me a message. Congratulations, you successfully passed, or I'm sorry, please refer back to the training material and try again. The user can also download their certificate immediately upon completion. Here's an example of the certificate. If you see certificates hanging up on, in store locations or in conversations with managers, store owners, that type of thing, the individual's name is automatically filled out along with the date and any other pertinent information that the system is preset to generate. This is an example of an email that the individual receives immediately. The individual receives the email. They can download, and the email tells them about their status as well, their pass-fail status. If the individual was not successful, under feedback, they receive a different message that says, we're sorry that you were unsuccessful. Please try to review the training material again. If you need assistance, contact us at the TTA Center, and so forth. We also receive on our end an email for every individual that participates in the training and completes the certification process. We receive an email that's a success email, basically the same email the user receives, or we receive the same email in terms of, sorry, you were not successful this time, please try again. That email lets us know internally inside the office to reach out to the individual. That's a really broad spectrum overview of some of those, the basics that the system rests on that makes the system work. We do have some promotional material. We're beginning to design and think about promotional materials that can be used in the community to encourage individuals to participate in the training or to insert with your red flag material or other merchant education material that you can, stick in the folder or use as needed. And we have created a double-sided full-color note card. This example is imagine as if it's double-sided. It's the same card. It's either 4x6 or 3x5. I'm not sure, but we're encouraging individuals to again access the website, the training, based on the ALE address, and we provide just a really brief on the flip side. Those same 4 objectives that we looked at in the very beginning of the webinar. We also provide some really minimal training details and the topics that we cover inside the training. So again, these materials are available to providers. You can let us know if you would like to receive some of these, and we will actually be delivering some of these or distributing some of these during our Synar merchant survey trainings or youth survey trainings on Thursday and Friday, if you would like to pick some up. We also have stickers as well that we will be passing out and can mail to folks that can be used in a variety of ways. Sadly, the stickers came back just a little bit smaller than we had anticipated. We let me see if I actually have a copy here. I don't, but the stickers are just I do too. The stickers are a tad bit smaller than what you see on the screen. They're actually this size, we're going to reprint these a little bit larger, actually a lot larger, for a variety of uses. The individuals will see examples of these on Thursday and Friday if we happen to see you. If you do happen to want to see or receive some stickers in the mail, we can mail those to you as well. And we're certainly looking for ideas in terms of other types of promotional material that might encourage use in a really friendly and attractive way that's easy to use for providers and for merchants and employees and so forth. Okay, let's take a moment and just stop and see if we have any questions out there. Israel, is there anything you want to jump in on and make sure that I was correct or I didn't misspeak with anything?
And I apologize, sir. Say that one more time.
Yeah. Anything that I missed or
no, sir.
Make sure that I was on track with?
No, sir. You've done a wonderful job.
Okay. I think Olanda and Rhonda was on this call too, as well. So that's been instrumental in this process too. This has been a effort of many folks to get together. So we're just happy to have everybody with us today. Let's see. We do have a question. Who do we contact for the note cards and stickers? Me. Just email me or Amanda or John, and we can make sure to get you some copies. We have two other questions. Other than the certificate or bragging rights, is there any other incentives for retailers to take the training? That's a really good question. That's actually two that was asked two times. Well, we hope that I'm an educator at heart, and I'll let Israel jump in here too in a second. That we hope the power of new skills and knowledge will increase and empower employees to do their job more effectively and reduce risk, legal risk, and other sorts of liability as well. Are there other incentives built in, monetary or other types of incentives built in currently? No, there's not. Again, this system's really designed to serve as a supplement to a current merchant education efforts, the current efforts by the ALE folks in our Synar office, not to replace any of those other excellent items, but to be a complement as well. I would actually throw that out to the group as well and to everyone else. We have had some providers discuss other incentives that we're brainstorming and talking about that could be motivational with individuals who complete the training. We do have a process for if providers are interested in knowing who completed the training, not necessarily who, but what stores are participating in the training. We can pass that along. If we have stores in your community that were super successful that you want to go by and congratulate and say thank you for completing the training and can I provide any other information, that would certainly be a great follow-up effort to encourage the material. So I'll kind of throw this out to Israel for a second about incentives and conversations he's been involved with merchants, if any, and if any ideas come through the question box or the chat box that might be interesting.
Well, the training aspect of it is that we all need continuing education, and I believe this will be something that we can provide to our retailers every year. But also, one of the other things is that in the tobacco retail business, it is a high overturn rate on the employees. So basically, an employee may be working at one day at one location, but then decide that they want to go to another location, so they can take that training with them from one place to the next. And this training is obviously, we want it to be uniformity across the state, and that provides. It doesn't matter if you work in Manio or Murphy, you should be being provided the same information. But incentive-wise, there isn't anything other than that certificate and saying, hey, I've taken it and I'm aware of the rules and laws of North Carolina.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thanks. We please encourage staff, prevention staff, community members who want to learn more about the system or tobacco-related expectations, legal standards. They're certainly free to take the training as well, especially prevention staff and coalition members. It could be really enlightening to read some of the general statute from a professional perspective, and to watch the supporting videos. Plus, if you do that, you will be able to better describe the training system to merchants in your community if you choose to pass out some of the promotional materials. We're running out of time, so we'll just quickly go through some of the screens in the training. Again, if you go to this is the back door, so to speak, to the training through the TTA website. We do encourage folks to use the ALE website instead. But in this case, I will use the path of the back door approach. And once the individual clicks on merchant training, this screen comes up, and you see the Start Course button. This is where everything begins. So the individual will click on Start Course, and the interface changes. We basically have a statement of funding and support from NCALE and the division office, and the individual can scroll down and take note. This should seem familiar. You will see the Continue button, the blue Continue button. Let's take a moment and try. Suppose I want to come over and click on Tobacco ID. The system will not let me. I'm locked out of Tobacco ID. Also, take note of this circle. The circle tells me I'm 75% complete with this particular section. If I were to hit complete or continue, notice what happens. My circle fills in, and I have a checkbox that lets me know that yes, I completed the module. The system also shares with us what percentage of the training is complete. And you can always hide the sidebar if needed. Again, the Getting Started module basically talks about all those technology items I mentioned in the very beginning of the webinar. And if the individual needs to submit a help desk ticket, they can. And this is the same ticketing system through the help desk that we use with providers, except it does not look like that since I'm logged in. It thinks I'm an administrator. So it will take you to the help desk system, to the ticketing system. It will ask you for your name and email address and what problem you're having, and we will reach back to the person as soon as possible. It is not live yet in terms of her support. It is more of a give and take process. Course objectives. Again, we do have a selection of course objectives. Generally, I always have a rule, which is never play video, like I'm going to show video within a webinar because it seldom streams, but I will start this video. And again, you're free to go into the system and watch the videos. You can participate in the training program without taking the quiz. That's okay too.
And employees of a tobacco retailer in understanding and complying with the laws regarding the sale of tobacco products. Throughout this program, we'll provide information and helpful hints to help you engage in the legal and responsible sale of tobacco products. Thanks for your participation and dedication to the proper and legal sale of tobacco products in North Carolina. With your help, Our goal is to make North Carolina a healthier environment for all. This program contains references to statutes and related materials. However, it does not create a legal relationship.
Again, most of our videos follow the same structural format and design format for consistency's sake. Again, you can click continue and move on down into the module. These are the objectives, for example. Then we move to the next section. This next section is why we focus on tobacco. We have another video, for example. If the user has problems streaming the video inside the training material or inside the training content software, you can always view the video on the primary website outside the training system. Again, additional videos, we attempt to embed videos before presenting detailed text-heavy information. You will see pop-out boxes of different shades of color and so forth that are points of emphasis. Plus, we have a friendly staff person who follows the user throughout the training and provides some usability hints, technology hints, instructions, and so forth. This is actually a generic person. We have not added a merchant training staff person, but it is just a talking head of sorts. This is an example of a sample quiz. For example, suppose I choose false. The system will tell me it's incorrect. Try again. Suppose I choose true. The system will say correct, and it will tell us why this is correct. Many of the survey or sample questions will give hints when the answer is incorrect, but at the same time, we don't necessarily want to give away the answer too soon. But if you only have two options in your test bank, true or false, you know to pick the opposite question, correct? Right. Speaking of test banks and that type of thing, I did not mention this, but when the user takes the actual certification exam, they receive 10 randomly generated questions out of the test bank. We want to protect the fidelity of the test bank as much and as long as we can. We know that's a difficult question and possibility, but if we can randomize the questions as much as we can to the users, the greater fidelity and trust we will have in the process. Videos that talk about health risk and subsequent material discussing health risk. This is an example of the tab interaction we asked for. Another sample quiz. And this particular section is structured very similarly, with subtopics, videos, material, and quizzes. This one is tobacco health in North Carolina. And let's move on to the next. This is a different type of interaction. These are some of the graphical interactions that require clicking of sorts. This is the biggest section of the entire training. So we're moving on to the next one. This is probably the most technical module of the training. The Family Smoking Prevention and Tobacco Control Act, plural, 2 different items. So we talk about the legal standings and history and expectations of these legislative requirements. Another example of interactivity. Another example. On a mobile device, you can basically just swipe as if you're looking at pictures and the screen rotates. One of the reasons you see a vertical scroll and an occasional horizontal scroll is in terms of instructional design. It forces the user to retrain their thinking process for just a very short period of time to the point where, yes, I'm scrolling vertically up. Now I have to slow down and scroll horizontally. And this is another just a little design technique to slow the user down to focus on the content we want them to focus on. Let's scroll through all of these. I want to specifically show some of the tobacco ID items, then we will finish up. Here's a really good example of the flip cards. This is a paraphrase of the actual North Carolina General Statute. If you're really interested, as providers, we may want to read this a couple of times to understand those legislative expectations. This is a great example of text that has a high level of density. The reading level exceeds what should be expected, even within our paraphrase. Of course, the general statute we can't change. That's the general statute. But our paraphrase and our description can be much better. So this is a really good example of how we want to improve the system moving forward, is to turn even our paraphrases and our summaries into a more usable, user-friendly way to convey the information. Okay, so we're back to the tobacco ID. So we have a video about tobacco ID best practices. We provide examples in terms of how to build your own individual skill level as a store employee and how to protect yourself. We have additional flip cards. You may remember this picture from the presentation. Again, you can simply click on number 3, for example, and we provided some introduction to this interactive graphic above in the narrative, and we want individuals to actually click on facial features that we want them to kind of pay attention to and note when we compare the person standing in front of them and the actual photo identification being presented. Examples of enlarging photographs. Well, that's not a great example. Let's find another one. This is an example where we can enlarge photographs, make it easier to see. This is standard across the system. You may remember this photo again from the very beginning of the presentation. Same concept applies as with the photograph of the young lady. Clicking on individual aspects of the graphic to learn more. We do talk about microchips and passports and appropriate types of ID, secondary IDs. We encourage users to pay attention to the ID that's presented in front of them and not to rush through the process, pay attention to the details. The section that we're currently working on improvements for is the refusal section. We do have a video that provides some hints to provide skills to develop refusal techniques and suggestions in a friendly way, but we're beginning to flesh this out. We actually have a work day on Wednesday to work on this section. After completing that particular section, we go to the training quiz section. And this is the section for the individual. We walk through the technical aspects of creating the account and beginning the quiz. It appears as if I have reached my limit of time, and my greatest apologies. We were able to show you the basic framework though of what stands up the system and the design process. We gave you a really brief tour of sorts of the training itself. We do have promotional material that we can send to providers to distribute. We encourage prevention providers to complete the training, complete the quiz, help provide feedback and suggestions for improvement. If you're interested in having conversations with us, we would love to have conversations with you about this. If you need assistance with understanding some of the content, legislative standards, perspective of law enforcement, we can schedule a call with Israel to help us understand from that perspective. So we really want this training process to be useful to providers and to the community at large. We'll be happy to carry forward this conversation again now. I realize some folks may have to leave, or via email, telephone. Just let us know, and we'll be happy to do what we can to encourage use. Do we have other questions, or I can turn audio on for folks if you want to share. We do want to say thank you. Many of you who have logged in today actually participated in our beta test this summer. We had over 40 beta testers who tested the system out. Many of the changes we made was because of those beta testers. Many of the changes that testers suggested are on our list for the next version. The next version we hope will be able to read to the user as well. So we will have a decreased level of text density, a decreased level of reading level requirements, and the ability for the system to read to the user all at the same time. So we believe when we use that combination together with increased video and interactivity processes and make some improvements with their testing process to make it more integrated into the system, we should have a much more solid product with version 2.0. So we'll give everybody just a few minutes if you want to raise your hand, or I can provide audio rights, or to throw out a question or a suggestion or something. Be happy to do so. I think we have a hand in Wilson. I think. No. Let's see. Community prevention. I think it is. Yes. I've been unmuted. If you want to use the audio and mute yourself on your end, that might be Kelly or someone in the office down there. We recorded this webinar. We will download it this afternoon, make some edits later tonight, then upload. And the webinar is available within the TTA help desk. If you want to look at later. Yeah.
Oh yeah, this is Armando.
Hello.
How you doing?
Good.
Hey, my question was, or I raised my hand because, we live in a military environment, and when I go out and do this, talk to the merchants, it's been brought up if there is such a thing as like a chart with examples of different driver's license through, all 50 states, something that they can look at, I know it's kind of hard to keep up with all these driver's licenses being changed all the time, but it's been brought up several times, and I don't have no clue.
Good question. I think Israel had to step away, but I'll post that question to Israel and Rhonda and Olanda and see if there's something out there. I haven't seen anything either, but who knows?
Yeah.
It could be out there, and I can see your point. That would be extremely confusing.
Yeah, because somebody probably out in Fayetteville would probably need something like that, or we're up in Goldsboro where the military is. That's my question.
Okay, that's a good question. We'll try to dig into that and see if there's anything out there. That's
all right. I appreciate it.
Good question. Thank you. Any other items, questions, thoughts? Within 7 days, you will receive a certificate. The webinar was approved for certification credit through the certification board. So John and Amanda will take care of that. 60 minutes after the end of the webinar, you will receive a survey. This survey is a little bit different. This particular survey asks you about things you saw today online from the presentation and the online tour. It asks you about the types of resources you might need to promote the online training in your community. It asks you for your initial response. So we really want folks to take a few minutes and respond if you can. We do have a question. Is it recommended for all tobacco employees or mainly the owners managers? We're recommending this for all employees, regardless of their job title. We believe it's important information and fulfills some of the skill building that might help them feel more comfortable in their daily interactions. So the current recommendation is all employees and managers or owners. That's a great question. Again, we want to encourage you to go into the system, poke around, let us know what you think, and we're just excited to have folks using the system. And if prevention professionals can spend maybe 25, 30 minutes working their way through the system, if your staff can, and provide some feedback to us, we can all be part of making an even better system that can make an impact statewide. So again, I will hang around for just a few minutes. Thank you so much for attending. We will send an email out after I have the video posted and processed online. The slide deck we will also post online via the help desk. So the end result being, hopefully by sometime tomorrow, you will receive an email from me with a link that has the video and the slide deck both for your particular review and use. If you want to receive promotional material, just send us an email at nctta@ncpreventiontta.org, or send it to Jamie or me or Amanda or John. Send us a help desk ticket or call us, and we'll make sure to save you some material. Thanks so much.